Hey Scott, how are you? Welcome
Hey,
to the
how you
show.
doing?
Pleasure to have you on the show, actually, and I can't wait to get into some of your work.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I always like to go back, way back to the start. Can you remember your first horror-related experience, or maybe your first horror movie you ever saw, or even if it wasn't a horror movie? Sometimes people, come out with things that are completely left field, and they were like, it terrified me and excited me.
Oh, yeah, definitely Gremlins. Probably is one of the first things I ever seen. And I just remember seeing it. I was probably like five. I just remember scaring the shit out of me at the time.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
actually afraid of Gremlins till I was like 16 or 17.
yeah, it was. I love that movie. And then my parents, my dad let me watch everything. He let me watch Aliens, which blew my mind. I think I was like seven when they came out. If that came out '89, um, I loved Aliens with Sigourney Weaver, James Cameron, and just that's still one of my all time favorite movies. Funny enough, but just the Queen parts terrified me forever.
I
So good.
actually I had a chance to I went to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando in
Yeah.
2014, I think it was at the time. They'd done a Alien versus Predator
Oh
haunted
yeah.
house, and they actually had that scene with the Queen.
Oh yeah. I love
Obviously,
that. That's
it's not like it's obviously probably nowhere on the scale of like what it's like in the actual movie, but it was kind of surreal to see something like that, and you had all the strobe lights and shit. It was pretty wild. Um, and so from that point, then it's probably safe to say that that kind of bred your fascination with the genre.
Yeah, I was all my stuff is because is more accidental. I've always been an artist, horror art, and I got into comic books at like age 10, and I've always been drawing comics. Honestly, I still draw a lot of black and ink stuff nowadays when I get time in between movies. But I got a full ride to Savannah College of Art and Design for comic books, and I thought that was my ticket. I was, yeah, here we go. This is it. And being doing the comic books for about a year, I accidentally got roped into helping my roommate who was doing a short film, and just go. He had to make a horror short, and just that process of like making my first thing with him, and we had to make a monster, and it was just once I did that, I switched my major right away because I just felt like comic books were a little boring and movies were way more exciting to me. But I'd always been a horror fan, so that was just a weird thing. I never intended to go to film school. I just went to a film school.
And from that point, then was that when like I guess the gear switched for you into at that point did you choose like I want this to be my career, or was it just kind of like let me see what this is all about and maybe this is something I'll do?
Yeah, it was kind of like let's dabble in it. Let's see how hard it is. Let's see if we like it. I actually tried visual effects first for a bit, and I just felt like visual effects was like very much like drawing, like a lot of just sitting there, After Effects, and it was kind of tedious, and it was okay. But once I got onto a film set and helped him out, that was just like the light bulb went off, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I love this. This is like something I've never experienced before. It's like drawing in motion. Basically, movies is like being a comic book artist and doing storyboards, and it's all in motion. It's the same thing. Um, but I just think it's more exciting, and that was it. That took made me take off from there. Honestly,
Do you think that that stands to you now that you've kind of had a chance to dabble in different aspects of the business, or even things like comics? And obviously you have to, aside from just drawing, there's a whole storyline, there's a whole process there that people don't get to see. Do you feel like that kind of it's good to have that under your belt?
I think it's the best thing. Actually, I think if you can't draw, you can't be a director. And I hate to say that, but that's why I love Del Toro so much. Guillermo del Toro. I mean, his movies are insane visually because he draws his own storyboards. Obviously, you can hire a storyboard artist, but like he draws, James Cameron draws, Spielberg even draws a little bit, like some of the best all-time directors are artists first. But I think that really just knowing everybody else's job on a set prepares you to be the leader of the film, the director, the producer. Like you have to go through those steps and learn everybody's role if you're going to tell people what to do and make a good product, which is tough. It's very tough. It's not an easy thing.
Yeah, that's something I was gonna ask. Like when you, I guess when you finally make the decision that this is something that you want to spend your life doing, did you have much pushback maybe from other people in your life or friends or family, that were kind of like, this is a bit crazy, like can we not just go get a 9 to 5 at the bank and just kind of leave it?
Oh yeah, my dad was totally against it, and I had actually gotten into music videos first. That just seemed like a natural progression to learn how to do stuff on a cheaper budget and to save money and to do effects. And I was in a metal band in college, so I was playing shows, and I was like, oh wait, we need music videos. So yeah, I would help other bands out, and my dad was just like, hey, I'll see you in the shipyard. Like he works in the shipyard, working on submarines and stuff in Virginia, and
Mm-hmm.
he was just always giving me shit. And I'll see you there. I can't wait to see you. And you're gonna work this job with me, just like everybody else in my family. And I was like, fuck that. Nope, I'm not doing that. And I just didn't want to do it. It just wasn't for me. And he works his ass off. I got to give him that. But I kind of find my own path. This is my path, and uh, it really was honestly it didn't go off in his head until he saw. I was over for Thanksgiving from my parents, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, turn on CMT." And I was like, Willie Nelson was one of his favorite artists, and
Mm-hmm.
I had done a music video for fucking Willie Nelson, and it was on CMT, and it was about to premiere, and I was like, watch the whole thing. I didn't even tell him about it, and then he sees the name, and he's like, wait, is that you? And I was like, yeah, that's me. Like, this is your son. This is fucking one of the biggest country stars of all time, and I did his video, and then I think once he saw that, he was like, oh shit, this is legit. This is kind of real. Um,
That's got to be a nice feeling, right? Even though it's your dad, it's kind of got to be a nice feeling though to be like, told you.
yeah, yeah, because he would always give me shit. He was like, I'll see you. He was 9 to 5 always, and he's in that generation, and but he was always giving me crap about it, and he was just like, oh, art, you know, all you college artist kids, they're never gonna amount to anything. You're just gonna be back here working with your parents. And I was like, nope, not me. But yeah, that was the solidifying him to finally believe in what I was doing, I think. So
Do you think that's the difference in? I'm always fascinated, by people who like push to try and live out their dream. Um, do you think that's the difference between people who can actually do it and people who can't? Is that thing of like there is nothing else that I want to do. I would rather fucking die
yeah,
than not do this.
yeah. I mean, I have so many friends that's what they do. They do that 9 to 5 stuff. They have kids. It becomes you become another vessel for a person, which is great to have kids. I don't have any kids. Both of my brothers have 9. They can have a small football team.
Wow.
I'm the brother that travels the world, shoots music videos and movies in different countries. I've been to all 7 continents, and my brothers, God bless them, but they're always like, can you bring us, please, 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 for the love of God, take us. And it's always funny because it's just like, well, you kind of chose that path, and I was always the artistic type, and one of my brothers went to the military, and the other one became a welder, just like my dad did. And here I am, the movie guy, and they're like, it's always just third wheel, It's always weird for them to be like, oh, you make movies? That's weird. You make music videos? What? But now they understand. But I mean, there is a drive. There's a drive that I got from my dad. He's a fucking ant. He'll work himself to death, and I think I'd learned that from him. And my mom was really incredible with pushing the artist side and the music side of me. And she was very supportive in the movie stuff and music stuff, and as opposed to my dad being like, "We'll see you in the shipyard." So I do have to give her credit. She definitely pushed me a lot. But I mean, you have to find yourself. You got to find yourself. Filmmaking is still a really tough job. It's a it's definitely a hard profession. You have to fail a lot, and you have to raise money. You have to make movies, and making a movie is like taking C4 and putting it in a fucking birthday cake and hoping it all comes together correctly. There's so many things that can go wrong. So it's not the easiest thing to do. It's very tough actually. Um,
Yeah, to see like the two flip sides, I guess, from maybe having to eat shit for a certain amount of time to then be able to say, look, I told you guys this is what I want to do, and now I'm doing it. To then that only being, I guess, kind of the start of like that's only like the Everest base camp. You've still got to go the whole
yep.
way to the peak. And that's something I think is like underplayed. A lot of people now. That's why I asked the question. I'm kind of fascinated because like everybody wants to be a director, and like
Yeah.
I feel like in the last couple of years, horror's become like extremely cool again. So it's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I want to make horror movies, man. It's like, do you though, or did you just see somebody else and assume it's like this free ride to like the best life ever?
Yeah. I mean, usually you see a horror movie that's doing great, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. But what people don't realize, it probably took that person 10 to 12 years to get to that point with getting that movie. And even, I mean, like, like we'll say Terrifier. That's a great example of a huge success story. I mean, that guy, he's done like 4 movies now that were all Terrifier. Just the first two were like a Halloween thing, and then he
Yeah.
did like a low budget, and then Terrifier 2 exploded for him, and that's incredible to see. Like to see somebody really take off like that. But it definitely took that guy like 10 years to get there. And I see people are like, oh, we can just hop right in, just like you said. Um, and it's just tough. It's you gotta really stick it in, and you have to go. Uh, you have to devote everything you have to it, and then uh, everything has to land in the right place too. You have to get the right actor. You have to shoot it. You have to raise the money, and then it has to come out good, or somewhat good. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's so many things that go wrong on a film set. It's amazing to me when uh, something actually comes out good, and that's usually because somebody's they're living it, they're breathing it, they're trying to make the movie they want to make, and I love that feeling. That's a feeling that not many people will experience in their life, is that kind of devotion. To put 10 years into something and see it come out. I mean, I guess you could be like a doctor too. It's the same thing. You're going to doctorate school for 10 years, and you're going to be a heart surgeon. It takes 10 years to be a doctor, so it's the same kind of thing. But movies are just, you got to put a lot of time and effort, a lot of sacrifice, for sure. To be a director, especially, it's definitely.
Outside of you know, obviously needing to have that drive and passion and I guess that want of like, I want to do this so bad that I'm not willing to do anything else. Outside of that, what do you think is maybe the most important aspect of making it in the business? Like, is it networking? Is it just getting out there and putting yourself out in front of people? Like, what exactly would you say is the key?
Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely it's networking. You got to network. You got to constantly be putting yourself out there. Obviously, as time passes, you have to reinvent yourself as well. I mean, when I went to film school, I've been doing this for 14 years now, and we made 5 movies and probably 900 music videos and probably 75 commercials to date. Uh, and then I have a full studio in Atlanta now, and it's crazy to think about what we had now compared to what we had when we were first starting out. But it was basically nothing. We to build all of that just probably took the entire time still building. I always make the joke that I want to be like white Tyler Perry. I want to have my own studio. And I do now. In Atlanta, I have a 25,000 square foot on 3 acres. And we
Wild.
service a lot of indie films. I did spend 7 years in LA, doing my LA time, getting it out of the way, making my contacts. I got signed in LA as a director, producer. Um, but moving to LA, moving away from your family, you have to move away. You have to get away. You have to don't stay in your hometown, kind of thing. I know that for sure. I've been told that many times by other filmmakers, that it's always good to move away and start something new, and then come back to your home. And I always thought that was interesting to hear that from very successful filmmakers who were like, "Hey, don't stay in your hometown. Leave your hometown. Go make a name for yourself and come back." I just thought that was kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, it's tough, man. Like you gotta keep building. It's a constant network. It's a constant build, shaking hands. I find myself going to a lot of film festivals nowadays that are pretty cool in different countries. Um, uh, I meet a lot of people on shoots, obviously in the business,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually go to a lot of horror cons now. We started since we did that Bad Candy Halloween movie. We try to go to
Yeah.
like 10 horror cons, and now I'm seeing how important they are to go to the horror cons. And interacting with fans is pretty cool. And I would say that's a once you get to that status, it's good to like put yourself out there as, hey, this is what we do, and you can buy our movie, and you can meet some of the stars here and there. So
Yeah, and I
um,
feel like the horror community especially like really eat that shit up. Like I
yeah,
think they're equal parts they'll let you know if they don't like something, but for the most part when they love something, like they really really love it, like way more than any other community. I find, like, you look at like people who are big into even maybe sci-fi you could kind of put in there, but like, action comedy whatever, they have their fans, but like the horror community seems to be like they want the DVD, they want the Blu-ray. Now we've gotten to the stage where movies are able to release on VHS again. People want to buy
yeah,
that. T-shirts, props, masks, posters, like the support can be absolutely insane.
oh yeah, yeah, man. It's horror is just a different animal for sure. It's like I think it's way more supportive than any other genre. Well, next to sci-fi, I would say sci-fi is
Yeah,
pretty close.
yeah,
You see sci-fi cons, horror cons, but and then you see them mixed together, which is really cool. But I love seeing the older stars out there. The older horror icons from the '70s and '80s, and that are still around doing cons. I think that's really amazing. But yeah, you don't see that with comedy. You don't see it with like action. Well, maybe a little bit of action, but not really. You just don't see it in any other genre, and that's why I always love horror, thriller. I love that area as a genre. It's amazing. And
yeah, yeah. I had a conversation, actually. You mentioned Terrifier a few minutes ago, and I had an interesting conversation with the producer slash helper of everything, Phil Falcone,
yeah,
a couple of days ago, and like just to hear him talk, and this guy is 66, going to be 67 soon, and he was like, I feel like I have a whole new life since Terrifier. He was like,
wow,
he's like, I spent 30 years on Wall Street, and he was like, the last 6 years of my life have just been like, I feel like I've started life all over again just because of that, like meeting all
yeah.
these different people, cast and crew or other filmmakers. He was like, to just even be in the room while those people are doing their craft, and then to get to meet the fans. And he was like, it's just been so reinvigorating, and it's kind of wild to hear that. It's like, and I feel like that's a shared sentiment across so
Yeah.
many different filmmakers. Everybody kind of says like it really is like, till you experience it, it's kind of crazy.
And what was his name? Phil
Yeah,
Phil Falcone. That's
yeah.
cool. That's good to hear.
He's
He's a
I,
producer.
yeah, and like he's just such a. I just found it really interesting, especially like, the fact that the dude is heading for 70, and he was like, it's just been so crazy and wild, like to live the way I live now. Um,
Yeah,
for
I
you,
think
like,
also it's like a profession that you really don't have to retire.
yeah,
I see Scott. He's fucking what 83. He's
yeah,
doing
yeah,
massive movies, Napoleon, and he has Gladiator too. I mean, he's one of he's up there, but I'm just like looking at John Carpenter. I'm like, come on, John, what you doing, man? You're not that
yeah,
old.
yeah. That's
You can
true.
still come back and kill it. And like Joe Dante posted the other day, and I was like, Joe, what are we going to? When's Gremlins 3, man? Come on, You got all these guys in their 80s, like mid 80s, still directing. Scorsese, how old is he?
Yeah.
80s. I mean, these are obviously heavyweights, but it's incredible to me to see them, excuse me, to still direct, and it's very inspiring to see somebody in their 80s still killing it.
When when you were explaining there about all these things you've done, close to 1,000 music videos, a 25,000 square foot studio, all this stuff. Do you ever deal now? I guess looking back at all those years you probably spent wishing for this kind of position. Do you ever suffer like a imposter syndrome, or like, oh shit, like I'm gonna get figured out, or like, do you ever feel like that person that you were way back then?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like you have to go through all the faults and the mistakes to get to here. But I totally feel like that sometimes for sure. It's like, wow, how do we get here? Like, you made it through COVID, like Jesus, like
Yeah.
which almost killed the entertainment industry. Now there's three strikes, what, two strikes going on right now? Feels like COVID 2.0. And we literally got a movie coming up next month we're supposed to do. And we're trying to figure out, well, shit, what do we do now since we can't use our SAG actors? So we're trying to shuffle some things around so I can so we can film that movie. But yeah, it is weird to be here now, to talk to friends in high school. And, I just feel like being a filmmaker is like something that makes you feel young, all the time. Like that guy, Phil Falcone. That's so interesting because we hire kids that are 20 now. And, I just turned 40. So I'm like, I'm getting up there, I guess. But I don't feel it,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the people we hire are younger, obviously, and it's really cool to see them coming up now. And now they have so much more technology. It's crazy. Like you got red cameras and RE cameras and digital everything. So when I was coming up, we were just about to get our first red camera. So now it's like you have 5Ds and Canons and Sony AS3s and all these amazing technologies. So keeping up with the technology is always interesting. But I mean, anybody starting out today has so much at their hands. It's really amazing. Um, Even your phone,
Yeah.
Jesus, like the phone, the Samsung shoot 8K. Like goddamn,
Which
it's
is
crazy.
like, which is wild to think.
Wow.
For you in your position now with this, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing smoke up your ass, like, but with this, I guess, empire of sorts, how difficult is it to try and spin all those plates, like to obviously keep up technologically, creatively, like you said, there's kids seem to be getting younger and younger and younger, and they're doing these crazy wild things, keeping up with social media, to try and keep with the times, I guess. How difficult is that?
It is difficult. I mean, you have to keep on social media. You have to keep putting yourself out there. The way Facebook's set up now, it's just the algorithms are all different. YouTube is different. It's always changing around. But yeah, you just gotta keep pushing, keep reinventing yourself. I know we just did a movie. It is I'm producing a lot too, so I'm producing a lot and then directing. But yeah, every day is a challenge. Like I have to. We're selling four movies right now as I speak. We just sold one. Well, sort of. We're doing the deliverables, which is the most fun part of making a film, with my sarcasm. But so yeah, I'm in the process of selling four movies, and then we start a new horror movie next month. But it's definitely, um, I definitely love staying up late. I think everybody leaves me alone from 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., and that's when I get the most work done. I'll be honest.
So, for people like who maybe don't know, because like I mentioned before, I think a lot of people assume somebody in your position, all they're going to hear there is huge studio, 5 movies, all these, like, Willie Nelson, all these different names.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, like, what is that process of having a movie and then attempting to sell it?
That is the craziest situation, is to selling a movie and to not get fucked is like very tough. I'm actually doing some YouTube videos very soon about how to sell a movie and
Oh,
how to do the
nice.
little, because I feel I have not seen anything out there. And somebody was like, "Man, you sold 8 movies. Like, you should do a YouTube thing." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Probably should," because I've been screwed over twice, and it's not a good feeling, to lose money, or to, like, you do a bad deal, but you don't know it's a bad deal until you see them make $500,000 in some other country off your movie, and you don't get any cut except the buyout fee. There's all kinds of little gimmicks. But yeah, I mean, I've been through a lot. Like, I've been through, when I sell a movie, like the movie we're selling right now has Shelley Duvall in it from The Shining, which is called The Forest Hills. It's a werewolf movie, um, and we sold part of it, so that's what I'm literally just did a 2-hour film call about that. We're prepping to sell that, deliver that for a November release. But that movie is crazy because bringing Shelley Duvall back after 20 years. Um,
Which is
she's
which is wild. And I actually had that in the notes to ask you about the Forest Hills. How much can you say about that or talk about that ahead of time?
Yeah, I mean, Forest Hills. I produced that and I shot it for a director named Scott Goldberg, who's a good buddy of mine, and he's a good example. His first movie, he found funding. He needed somewhere to go, and he found us after watching Bad Candy, which is our Halloween movie that came out in 2021. Um, and we basically just kind of helped service the whole movie. He needed help locking some additional stars, and we were like, "Oh, who can we bring back?" And Shelley Duvall's name came up, and we were just like, "No, there's no way." And we randomly enough looked her, found her phone number, and I think I called like 50 times before we actually got her to pick up. And now it's weird that we're like cool with Shelley Duvall. Like, we can
How
like
does that
text.
conversation go? Not to cut you off, but I'm kind of fascinated when you say that. Like, how does
It
one
was
even broach that topic? It's like,
Yeah, no, it was just like, we need to bring a name to this film because it was a tiny film. It was a small budget film, but it was like, let's bring in a name. And Shelley Duvall came up, and I'm a huge Shining fan. Scott Goldberg was a huge Shining fan, so it was kind of cool to like be like, let's go after Shelley Duvall. Let's see what she says. And for her to say yes was crazy. We were just like, no way, there's no way. And then for her to be gone for 20 years was even more insane. And then to get all these stories as we're filming from her, we got like probably like at least 15 different stories about Kubrick, about Jack Nicholson, about Robin Williams, because she was in that Popeye movie.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I always forget about the Popeye movie. I love that movie when I was growing up. But yeah, working with her was just like, wow, this is. I think that's when it starts to set in a little bit, that you're like doing things that are, you're starting to go up a little bit. You're doing projects and you hit that next one, and it's like, okay, cool. Oh, we're working with Shelley Duvall. And then Today's Show is calling us, and Fox News and CNN and all these networks, and they're just trying to get info about the movie. And that we had so much indie press on that movie that we didn't pay for is insane. So now we found a seller, or a buyer for the film. So that's looking to come out in November. But yeah, it's called The Forest Hills, and it's about a guy that thinks he's a werewolf, and suffering from mental illness. Um, yeah, Shelley Duvall is a pretty amazing person.
Yeah, it's just so like it's so wild and bizarre. I was kind of fascinated, when all that news came out. I was like, how does somebody even like find her now, or how do you even like, hey, after 20 years, you want to be in a movie again? I just
Yeah,
found that
it took a long
fascinating.
time. Let me grab this prop, because look at this prop. I have to show you. So apparently, sorry, my chair. I have cats.
Oh, I know
Um,
that feeling.
so
Oh,
she signed
wow.
it with me. And apparently, I'm the only person who has ever brought her an axe to sign. And I just thought that was kind of
So
funny.
that's one of one.
one of one apparently. So
That's
we were
wild, man. That
we were
is so
finishing
wild.
the shoot, and I was just like, "Hey, Shelly, have you ever signed an X?" And she's like, "No," and I was like, "I brought an X. Hopefully, I know that was a traumatic filming experience for you. Hopefully, this is not, don't mean any harm in this." But she was really cool about it. She was laughing her ass off, and she signed it. So I have an X,
What
and then
what was it like working with her? All after obviously seeing her, she plays such an iconic role in that movie, and I think she'll be forever known probably for that.
oh
But
yeah,
what was it like to work with her, especially after she's been out of the business for 20 years? I know there's been some stories out there about how her life went and shit like that. What
yeah,
was
yeah.
it like to get to work with her?
I mean, we went to her house in Texas, and it was kind of crazy. Like, just you're out in the middle of nowhere. She lives that hermit lifestyle for sure. Um, and she retired from Hollywood. I did see the Dr. Phil interview where it kind of got a little racy and weird
Yeah,
for.
yeah,
But I mean, she was very honest. She was telling us that Kubrick destroyed her mentally, uh, on purpose for the movie for The Shining. I mean, she was telling me they would be doing 130 takes a scene, uh, especially the scene on the stairs where she's holding the axe and crying, and Jack Nicholson's walking up the stairs. They did that almost 130 times, and she was in tears like each take, and she said it took like 3 days to film that. And
wild.
I love Kubrick. I think he's amazing, but I do think he's a maniac too. For some of the stuff he did to her and the way he works, it's just that break your actors mentally to get the best performance, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with works every time, but in her case, you could see that Shelley really suffered from that abuse, on set. And while it made an amazing movie, it definitely she credits The Shining with destroying her career. And so learning all of that was pretty like you kind of feel bad, you feel bad for her. And she has some physical problems, that she's dealing with too, which we worked around. And we had a caretaker, and we were trying to treat her the best we could, obviously. But she had a wonderful time, she said, and even at the premiere, uh, she was giving me and Steve, because we went really tiny crew. Even the director, he doesn't fly, which is I
Oh
still nag
wow.
on. He doesn't fly, so he didn't go to the Texas shoot, so we had him on Zoom directing, and I was shooting, and me and Steve. So she loved us because she got to meet us physically, and that was pretty cool. But that lady has been through some shit. I can say that for sure. I mean, The Shining is an incredible movie, but it's an example of an insane, amazing, talented director destroying someone for a performance.
Yeah, it's wild because I think most people would look at her without any context, and you would see such an iconic role, and you would think, oh, that obviously made that person's life, made their career, and
Yeah.
probably what should have shot her into complete superstardom. And
Yeah.
maybe she would have been ended up pigeonholed into horror, but I feel like she would have had probably a pretty notable career in that. It's wild to see that it like in one fell swoop like shot up and then just went straight back down for her.
Yeah, it was weird. Right after The Shining, I mean, she had a few hits right before that, and then Shining came through, and it just like the lasting effects off that just really took her out. Um, and she's honest about that. She'll say that. I mean, this is everything that she's told us, and I was just like jaw dropped that that happened to her first of all because you feel bad on a human level. You're like, wow, uh,
Yeah.
I know The Shining is an amazing of art. It's like huge. It's probably one of the top five horror movies of all time. Let's be honest, and but to see her, the toll that it took on her, was pretty terrifying and interesting. Um, and the final product is incredible. It's an amazing product. Um, could he have done it with less takes? I'm sure he could have. I don't know if you need 100 plus takes for each take for each scene. That's insane to me. Um, but at her expense, ultimately, and that's the sad part, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Something that just popped into my head over the last couple of minutes. Have you ever? And I know, like you said, you're probably nowhere near maybe you're finishing your bucket list or completing all your goals. I'm sure you probably have countless ideas, things you want to check off your list. But with somebody who's done so much already, does the idea of I don't want to say an autobiography, but maybe some sort of coffee table book full of stories or experiences. Does anything like that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of people ask me about that because I have some very strange stories, especially from music videos. Like
I can
some
imagine.
different countries. Like, oh man, just some situations I've been in, and by accident as well. Like, just very funny stories. Yeah, no, I definitely have some hilarious things. But I was thinking, I've had a lot of music video fans ask me about making something about music video directing because it's like it used to be cool, and it's kind of dying. Music videos definitely died since MTV days. And 10 years ago, they were way bigger budgets, and now it's like it's all pop music or rap. Rock is my genre has kind of died, metal and rock. It's still there, but it's like hanging on by a thread. But I have a lot of weird stories. I have thought about that, so it's interesting you bring that up, and I should probably get on that because I have some terribly funny stories that are just mind-boggling, hilarious.
Yeah, because I feel like just from the 20, 30 minutes we've been talking, I kind of got that vibe, and I was like, you know what? Wouldn't it be better rather than ask all those questions? Wouldn't it be better to have that like immortalized in a? I'm a sucker for, yeah, reference books, anything like that. And especially of like filmmakers or creators that I like, and then to
Yep.
hear all those little behind the scenes stories or like strange experiences or whatever they might have. I'm a
Oh God.
sucker for having that in like a physical, tangible. Like this is forever. I can pick this
Yeah.
up whenever I want and like flick through.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I'm gonna have to get on that because yeah, there's some crazy shit that we have seen for sure.
And
From
that's
labels to famous people to like situational stuff. Uh, Seen a few dead bodies before in Mexico in a shoot. That was crazy. Like people actually dead. Like I was
that's
just like,
yeah.
ooh, we probably shouldn't be here right now. And I don't know. I've definitely seen some
That's
weird.
that's something I think that um, your fans and fans of the community in general would probably get behind. And I feel like
Yeah.
coffee table books have really like made a comeback in recent years. I feel like everybody's starting to like make books and behind the scenes and different things like that. Do you have any comfort horror movies? Is there any particular movies that come to mind, that you find yourself either revisit a lot or maybe if you're trying to get something done, you kind of, stick it on in the background?
Yeah, I do. Man, what are my go-tos? I mean, um, what did I just watch the other day? I just watched The Thing again. I love
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Just I was just there. And I was just like, all right, we're gonna watch it. I love The Thing, man. That is such a timeless movie. It's like the perfect horror movie. Huge Kurt Russell fan. I got Keith David in one of my movies coming up for later this year, so that's kind of cool to have Keith David. But yeah, I was just watching The Thing. Trying to think of what else I've seen that was like. Um, yeah, I just watched Barbarian. I was just like the ending killed me, but it was so good up until the ending. I feel like, but
That was one that I went to see, I think, alone in the theater, and I think I enjoyed it so much just because I had no context as to like what was
yeah,
happening. So then, like, spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it yet, but like halfway through when you get introduced to Justin Long's character, I was like,
yeah,
wait, what's happening? It's like,
yeah. That was so. I mean, it was brilliant though, and that movie did so well. Oh, I just watched It Follows again, and I love It
yeah,
Follows.
yeah,
It's just such a. You forget how scary that movie is. like truly scary. Um, because a lot of horror isn't scary, or or they say it is, but it's not. It Follows is a movie that'll just keep you
Mm-hmm.
like looking over your shoulder. Um, the first two Final Destinations. Um, every time I see a log truck, I'm just like, oh fuck, the
And
log is going to fall out.
do you know what's wild about that? Like when there's certain things in certain movies that kind of bleed over into like the
Real life.
public, yeah, like the public consciousness or whatever. Like I have had people reference that and have no idea, oh yeah, Final Destination,
Yeah.
but like know of that thing.
Yeah, it's just weird how a scene from a horror movie, that they probably were like, "Oh, it's a cool idea," how it can torment you for years to
Yeah.
come. Like anytime I'm behind a log truck, I'm like, "Nope, pulling off to the right," going around. Don't, because of that one movie, and it always got me. Like that's the power of horror movies. I feel like it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, what's weird too is um, I was watching oh shit, I just forgot the title. Pan's Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
Love Pan's Labyrinth. Um, the creature where it takes its eyes and puts in the hands, does that. I love that.
That's
Inventive.
another one of those like iconic. Like I feel like even people who aren't a fan of that have seen that character and like know what you're referencing when you mention it. Um,
Such an inventive character.
if you could get your hands on, because I do want to I do want to get to some of your movies, and maybe if you can talk a little bit about what's in the pipeline. But if you
Yep.
could get your hands on an existing IP or a character, is there anyone in particular that would spring to mind to be like, oh, I'd love to do a Nightmare on Elm Street, or I would love to do a Blair Witch, or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I would love to do Friday the 13th. I keep hearing rumblings that I think Hulu's doing a show called Camp Crystal Lake. I just don't understand what's going on. They're fighting over the IP, and I think the two writers are having a little spat. But I'm like, you guys saw what Halloween came back out and did, like almost 800 million. You guys do your shit together. Like, I didn't. I actually didn't mind the 2009 one. People were like, "Oh, whatever." I'm like,
Likewise.
it was it was fucking great. Like, get
Yep.
out of here. That's all I expect out of a Jason movie, and there unfortunately isn't enough of them. And you see the Walk Alone and all these fan movies that are actually really good, and it just tells you like the fucking fans are making these goddamn movies. Like, how can you not put out at least three of these, two of these a decade? Like the hunger is there. Like, you just need a name. Like, and for them to bring back Jamie Lee Curtis into
Yeah.
Halloween, amazing. And that movie slayed. And seeing it come back, I'm just like, come on, Freddie. Like, Freddie was so iconic. And I know he doesn't want to come back. And I heard the rumors about what's his name, Kevin Bacon,
Mm-hmm.
come back. Like, that's who the Freddy character was. Like, if anybody's going to replace me, it's Kevin Bacon. And I'm like, that's a great idea. Kevin Bacon's great. Why not? Like, let's make it. Somebody make it happen. Like, I think I've heard Bloomhouse is trying to do something with a possible Freddy series again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't understand what's taking so long. Like, Halloween came and went, and Halloween was great. It was great to see those redone, or not redone, just another take, And God, just Friday the 13th, just sitting there, it's just sitting there doing nothing. And
Yeah, it's
we need
kind of
that.
wild when you think about it. I mean, even more recently, Scream has done
Yeah, Scream came
crazy
back.
numbers. So much so, I think that Sony right now are in talks with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt to do a
I
sequel
know you
to I
get.
Know It. Yeah,
I love that. That was a great movie, and it's just the power of horror. Like, those movies are so insidious. People were like, "Oh,
yeah,
Insidious 6 is gonna bomb," and that movie is like $15 million. It did like 40 million in one weekend. And here you have like Indiana Jones, which is also great, and some other movies. And that movie came out of nowhere, and that just shows you the horror. genre is massive. Like I just people need to dive more into it. It can that's the fifth or sixth Insidious movie, and it's greenlighting the next one
Yeah,
already. I
yeah.
know it, and the Conjuring movies. I appreciate all the Conjuring movies. Those are great, and
We have a
they
Conjuring
just
TV show soon, don't we? Or the the
yeah
Warrens
something.
TV show, something like that.
Yeah, Warren's. Yeah, they got a show, and then the Exorcist just did the third. Well, I don't know if they're what is it, the first one, the second one, and then they're shooting a new trilogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they just shot that like literally a mile from my house in Georgia,
Oh,
which is
really?
yeah, I'm like a mile away. So I live in Atlanta, and Stranger Things is like literally the town I live in. Conyers is like Stranger Things. Like there's like probably like 15 locations for Stranger Things here in Atlanta, and I'm filmmaker in Atlanta, but I'm a massive fans of Stranger Things, and I'll see them, doing their thing, and it's amazing to be so close to that.
There's another example of something that's completely like I live in a small town, a small-ish town in the southeast of Ireland, and like
Oh yeah,
something like Stranger Things came out and just took over the entire world. Like I even see people now. Like I took the dog for a walk earlier, and like I see guys, maybe like I'm 31 now, so maybe guys 10, 11 years younger than me, and
yep,
like they're wearing like Converse with like white socks pulled up and shorts, and
yeah,
like they have like the kind of weird mullet hair, and I'm like
yep.
that is like I know for a fact that all of that is like inspired by Stranger Things in recent years. It's just so wild.
Yeah, that's cool. I love. I'm going to Ireland next month for the first time for a shoot.
Really?
Yeah,
To shoot
yeah.
something?
To shoot three things actually. Two music videos, and then a scene for our Virginia Bitches movie,
Oh wow.
which is a sequel to
Why why Ireland?
next metal band called Survivalists. They're like a kind of like
Yeah.
as a like they're called Survivalists out of Belfast. So I'll be flying in to shoot with them. And then another band is a rock band called Greywind. They're in Dublin called Greywind, Grey Wind. It brother sister band. So coming in and do that video. Funny enough, my first time to Ireland though. I'm excited. And then we rented a castle for a scene for this vampire movie we're doing. So it's like three things in like 8 days, nine
Do you
days.
know where the castle is by chance?
Uh, I think we have three of them. We haven't locked the castle. We're in the process
All
of
right.
locking
Okay.
the castle, and we're trying to lock a cool actor from Ireland. I can't say his name, but he's a very famous Irish actor. He's done a lot of horror movies.
I'm intrigued. People have to go and try and find out who that is.
Yeah, I can't say who he is, but he's there. So, but yeah, it's we're shooting a couple 2 days worth for Virginia Bitches, which is it's a sequel to our Bad Candy movie. It's about four chicks in a metal band who are vampires.
Which is
It's a
just such a wild idea as well. And what I guess why choose the location of Ireland, or what brings you to Ireland for? I know obviously you've got other business, but what in particular for the movie interested you about Ireland?
oh, we're recreating a Transylvania type scene, and Ireland's like
Yeah,
very
that's true. Yeah.
a lot easier than actually going to
Hmm.
Spain. Honestly, I mean, I have some connections in Spain too, but Ireland just has it's something about the coastline and the rain, and it's just like it's
Yeah.
kind of perfect. There's a lot of rain and weather and clouds, and it's just it's better than actually going to some of the other spots. And I like to shoot stuff on location. I love to find a real like for this we're doing a scene that's pretty cool. I can't say much about, but it's like we need a castle, and it's 1,000 years ago, we kind of thing, and that's
I'm
like a
already
flash.
liking the sound of that, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's we rented a stagecoach, and some horses, and we got like these 25-foot doors, but we're like we're trying to pick the right castle. There's like three of them actually. But yeah, it's literally coming there for 8 days next month for the first time. I've never been there, and I've always wanted to go. Um, so I'm
I always
excited.
ask people, I'm like, why? Why do you want to go to Ireland? It's terrible here.
See, I love that. I love that area. I went to Scotland for the first time last year, um, and that was incredible. But the day we dropped in was the day the fucking Queen died,
No,
and I
of
was just,
course.
whoa, what is the chance of that? We literally dropped into the UK, took the train. I was like, we're going to Edinburgh. We're getting away from everything, and turns out that's where she passed. And in her honor, they canceled all the excursions, all the William Wallace things, and Isle of the Sky, and all the cool stuff you can do in Scotland was like put on hold.
Put
And
on hold. Yeah.
so we just drank a lot, and that was awesome.
I mean, what better place than Ireland or Scotland or somewhere to drink?
It was great.
Um, yeah, being such a, I feel like you're obviously a huge fan of movies in general. You're a huge horror fan. And now being so involved in the genre, like professionally, what's that experience like? Do you feel like it helps? Um, does it help or hinder you to consume other movies, other work, other content? Is that a good or a bad thing for you?
I think it's a good thing. I think, like I got into this being a fan and being a comic book fan, and came into it from an artistic perspective. So, um, I mean, me and the wife, she's the producer. She worked on. It's funny because I'm all indie and I do my own stuff and I do my own horror movies, and she works on Avengers and fucking Infinity War
Wow.
and she knew about Fat Thor like a year and a half before Infinity War came out, and I'm just like, Fat Thor? What? No, what are you talking about? Thor's not fat. And then there he was, and um, so that was kind of cool. But getting her perspective on everything, she works on big stuff, and I just focus on stuff that I can write and direct and produce and help out other things. Because I kind of worked on a lot of big movies in LA. I did a lot of big movies. Hell, I was the 3D cam op on Texas Chainsaw 3D, where they put 3D camera on me, and I worked on doing all those shoots. That's where I met Bill Moseley for the first time, and Trey Songz. And the movie was okay. It wasn't bad, but it was
So
like,
it's funny, right? Because I remember being super hyped when that came out, and I would be lying if I said at the time. It was funny when I went to go see it. I was like, loved it, amazing. And then I done that thing. I think that a lot of people do without realizing. Other people told me that it was terrible and it sucked ass, and I was like, over time, I was like, yeah, I hate that movie so much.
yep,
And in recent years, I've kind of rewatched it more and more, and I was like, you know what? I actually like. Yeah, look, there's probably some things that could have been done differently or whatever, but
yeah,
I'm like, I actually, other than one specific line that a character says, I really enjoy that movie so much so that again, the horror fan, I had to buy the DVD, then I had to buy the Blu-ray, and I'm actually on
yep.
the hunt. If anybody knows where to get one, I want one of those Trick or Treat Studios Leatherface masks from Texas Street because I cannot find that thing. That is the hardest Leatherface mask to get your hands on.
Oh yeah. I have the Evil Dead book from Trick or Treat Studios. That's insane. The whole
Yeah,
thing, like
yeah.
drawn out. I was on that waiting list for a year and a half. But I think you have to be a fan. Like I'm a super fan. Like I got the AMC pass. We go to a movie once a week, and I'm watching all kinds of stuff. I just watched Indiana Jones, and um, there's supposed to watch Insidious tomorrow night. Actually, we've got tickets for. Um, but I think you have to consume, all of this because you have to be a fan. Like what's the fun and just working a job if you're not a fan of the job, and being involved in horror. And I actually know for a fact that that Texas Chainsaw that was John Lussenhop was the director of that, and he's a big horror fan, and he to get that movie was a huge point in his career. Um, but and that's cool to see, and to be on the set was pretty amazing. Like this massive $40 million horror movie, um, and that I love Texas Chainsaw. I just went to the gas station, had barbecue right after we shot the Shelley Duvall scenes. She literally lives 45 minutes from the 2002 remake of
Yeah,
Texas
yeah.
Chainsaw with Michael Bay and the white T-shirt girl,
Fucking love
Jessica
that
Alba.
movie.
Or no, not Alba. What is her name? She's married to
Jessica Biel.
Timberlake. Yes, yeah, she's amazing,
I
and
love that movie so
I
much.
just that's it. That movie is shot so incredibly, and it's terrifying. And then both of those remakes were amazing. I thought they were great. And yeah, we went and had barbecue at where you're supposed to eat human meat at the Texas gas
Yeah.
station from the original. We did that after shooting all the scenes of Shelley Duvall. So I was like, man, we're on Horror Central. We just shot with one of the most biggest icons of all time, and now we're going to grab some barbecue human meat at the fucking Texas Chainsaw gas station. Like mission complete, you know.
See what I mean about when I said about the book? Like there's a perfect
Yeah, yeah,
story
exactly.
for that book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Are
that's
you
a good idea.
like obviously for anybody who's watching the video aspect of this, we can see scattered in the background there we've got some props and masks and different things. Are you
Yeah.
a collector of anything in particular, like physical media or books or comics or whatever?
Oh yeah, I got. I think I got like 8,000 comics.
Wow.
Um, yeah, maybe 8,500. I still go to the comic store. It's
I
religious every
love that.
Saturday.
Yeah.
My dad, he would that. I think the only thing me and my dad ever really connect. My dad doesn't talk. He's one of those guys. Doesn't share his feelings, you know. But he fucking take me to the comic book store every Saturday, and that's my greatest memory with him is going to the comic book store. And he used to get me in the Silver Surfer and X Men and the '90s X Men and Avengers. So I'm a huge comic book fan. I read more comics than books. Trying to read more books now, actually, uh, and just to kind of do more with books. I feel like I don't read enough books. I read too many comic books. But yeah, I have. I can't really turn the screen, but I have a Hulk Buster up there. You can see it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I could see him.
oh yeah, there's the Hulk Buster. Um, I got like a 1930s Dracula poster. Um, And then I have a bunch of stuff over here, but I'm on a I can't swing it because I'm on a laptop. But we got like King Kong, Walking Dead, probably like 150 bobbleheads right to this side.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I can't really. Yeah, no, it's I got too many hard drives.
It,
No,
you know what? It's one of those things like it's um sometimes I like beat myself up to the fact that I'm surrounded like you can only see a small section of it, but like this entire attic conversion is
yeah,
full to the brim with anything and everything you can think of from let me see, I'll try and find something really random. I have pieces of the prop ship from Ghost Ship.
oh wow, that's cool. That's cool.
And then beside that, I have, I don't know if you are familiar with WWF or WWE
Yeah,
wrestling. There was
totally.
a wrestler back in the 90s, Gangrel, the vampire dude. I
Yeah,
have
I know you're talking about.
yeah, like a signed picture of him, and then it could be something else random. And I love having those conversations because I feel like a lot of people like yourself, filmmakers who are actually in this professionally, are such big fans and have such a wealth of knowledge.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
you spoke about your dad bringing it to the comic book store and all. And does it ever cross your mind that the stuff that you have created and continue to create is gonna be that's gonna be your version of that for somebody else? Like for example, something
yeah,
like Bad Candy. I
yeah.
don't. I'm assuming you've heard this before. How many people liken it to Trick or Treat?
Yep.
And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean in the sense of like, I think it gives people that like nostalgic like, oh, this
Oh
is
yeah.
this is what I want. Um,
Yeah, that's what I told people. I fucking love Trick or Treat. Like there we get 85 Mission Impossible movies over like 5 years, but we get one Trick or Treat every 15 years. And I'm like, like the same thing with Jason. We had one in 2009. Like we get luckily fortunate to get 3 Halloween movies. And I'm like, I'm such a huge Halloween fan. I'm a massive Halloween fan. Like I can't even tell you. Just go to my Instagram and look at my Halloween
Yeah.
from my,
Yeah.
my yard. It's ridiculous. Um, but I love trick or treat, and when we did Bad Candy, it was just like it was our version of like what trick or treat could have been, And we didn't have $15 million like they did, so they had a big budget. We had a small budget, basically self funded, and I feel like there's not enough Halloween movies, and that's my favorite holiday, and we celebrate that more than Christmas, and we were just very weird people.
Yeah, no, I feel that like so much so that I haven't obviously the past few years because of COVID and pandemics and
Yeah.
travel or whatever, but every year I make it my business to fly to Orlando to do horror
Oh yeah.
nights and Howlow Scream and stuff, only because it's getting more popular here now in recent years. Like we have a couple of big haunted attractions around Halloween time in Ireland, but before there was nothing. So like I used to make it my business to set aside thousands of dollars to fly to
Wow.
Orlando just to like feel like I really celebrated Halloween. I guess it sounds a bit cheesy, but
Well, we
like
go every year to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando.
it's
It's 6 hours away. We drive, and we get to stay at the Hard Rock Hotel
yeah,
and
yeah,
a little ferry boat in, and we will stay for the whole weekend. And it's just it makes you a kid again. You
yeah,
go through that giant archway, and it's just like, man, I that's the one thing I can't get out of any other genre. You can't do that with anything else. You can only do it with horror and Halloween, the connection of horror and Halloween, and where it originated in Ireland and the Celtics
mm-hmm,
and Scotland and the UK. Like it's I can't imagine what it would be like there. Like it's got to be. Well, they probably commercialized it here, but where it originated over by you it's probably something way more special. They call it Samhain,
yeah, yeah. And but I guess it's strange for us here because, and maybe it's just the way we're conditioned, but like, what I was gonna say was like I fly to the States to do that so I can feel like I celebrated Halloween properly. Like I think we over here maybe like I would have said the American way, which I feel like is the proper way where everybody has, decorations in their yard, everybody kids are trick or treat and you see people dressed up everywhere. There's something on every corner about Halloween and I feel like here it's a more traditional aspect. There's not as much of that, which I kind of don't
Yeah.
like. I love that idea of like even when I watch a movie, it makes me feel good when I see like just that sweeping shot of like the suburban
Oh
street with
yeah.
the kids, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, I want to live in that moment forever.
Yeah. Even when we did Bad Candy, it was like I remember a few of the scenes. Like there's a place in Atlanta called oh shit, oh Grant Park. It's called Grant Park, and it's really old kind of feeling there. And they I remember seeing like at least like 10,000 trick or treater kids on Halloween, and I was just like, holy shit. When I first moved here, because sometimes they're like, oh, Halloween isn't like the '80s, or the '90s, like when I was growing up, and but to go to Grant Park and see like probably 10,000 kids trick or treating at Grant Park was mind blowing. So when we were writing Bad Candy, I was like, yo, I'm just taking a camera out and we're just gonna film actual trick or treaters. And some of the B roll in that movie, that's legit. We didn't set that up. We just pointed a camera and shot, and that was incredible for us. Obviously, we lit everything else when it came to dialogue and story, but any of the B roll that's real trick or treating, and that's incredible that you can do that here in Atlanta. Just to see that it's still alive, it makes me happy.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's cool. Has there obviously the feedback for Bad Candy has been, I'm assuming from what I've seen anyway, and I can only imagine it's probably even more so for you, has been phenomenal. Um, and it's really found its audience. Is there anything else we can expect from that style, or is that something you want to leave alone and move on to something else?
Yeah, no, Bad Candy was our love letter to Halloween the holiday, I think, and making that movie was amazing. And um, yeah, we it's done well. It was, I think it's won 83 awards and 31 top best film festivals, which is weird. There's a fucking movie about Halloween, and it's like an anthology, but it's set up to be. It's not like
Yeah,
anthology.
yeah.
It's kind of like a movie where they all connect, and it's about a weird town. And we had gotten Corey Taylor from Slipknot, and now
Which
it's
is
like from like,
fucking wild.
it was cool because it was like, here's Corey Taylor. Um, and this, man, see, now I have to do the book because what I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind. But before Corey Taylor, uh, was he was the replacement for Sid Haig. Sid Haig from Devil's Rejects was supposed to be Corey Taylor. Um, when we had him locked in and everything, and then he was doing Three from Hell and he got really sick and he passed away right after that movie. But Sid Haig was supposed to be our Corey Taylor, and Corey Taylor took over and killed it, obviously, and did a great job. But we had gotten Corey Taylor because I've done music video stuff related to him with his band and Slipknot and all that. But yeah, Corey was excited because he was. It was funny because when you're on set with Corey Taylor, you're trying to make sure you're taking care of him, but all he cared about was meeting Zach Galligan from Gremlins.
Yeah, because he's such a fan as well, isn't he?
Such a massive horror fan. Huge horror fan. I think he legit only did the role because Zach Galligan was what was there. He was Paul. And then equally weirdly enough, Zach Galligan is a massive Slipknot fan. And I think he only did the role because of Corey Taylor. So it was like this give and give. And when they get together on set, there's so many cool pictures of them being giddy and just selfieing each other and hanging out and just, had too much fun because we had to do so many takes. They were just laughing the whole time.
Yeah, Corey Taylor is one of those people who he always struck me as like I've followed him for a long time. I was a huge, still am, but obviously maybe not as deep in it now, but huge Slipknot fan and probably even more so a Stone Sour fan.
Yeah, totally.
And like to see Corey, I used to follow a guy on YouTube called The House of Masks.
Oh, nice.
And I think he's actually maybe down your way somewhere, but he has this massive, like, probably one of the world's biggest collections of masks, and he was a huge Slipknot guy. And
wow.
I don't know, through, I guess, just networking or people finding out, he eventually ended up meeting Corey and, like, they vlogged the whole thing. But it was so weird to see Corey because this guy, I think, was kind of starstruck by Corey, whereas Corey was just like a fan in the video. He was like asking him about his masks, and he seemed more interested in that than being Corey Taylor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's a massive horror fan, and yeah, just working with him was incredible. And I mean, yeah, Bad Candy was definitely huge for us because they opened the door to more films, and that we have actually 2 sequels planned, funny enough, which we're supposed to do one next month, but we're trying to move it to September right now because of the SAG strike, or we might just kind of go with it. Honestly, we might just kind of just go with it even during a strike. But yeah, Bad Candy, I love Bad Candy. I recommend anybody to go check it out if they want like something that is going to give you a lot of dark comedy and weird situations. That's Bad Candy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nurse situation that'll probably make you kind of feel uneasy if you watch the movie. There's all kinds of stuff.
It reminds me of like one of my all-time favorite filmmakers is Rob Zombie, and
yeah, I love Rob Zombie.
Majority of things he touches, like I am obsessed with, and you remind me in a lot of ways of him, and even the way you create, and kind of even to hear you say, we're trying to push the movie to September, but maybe it'll just like be like, fuck it, let's just go with it. It kind of reminds me of his, like when you hear him tell stories about House of a Thousand Corpses, for example, how that thing just got like kicked all over the place, but they just kept, let's just keep moving. Let's go down to my basement and we'll shoot some extra stuff on a weird video camera and make it look.
Yeah, dude, House of a Thousand Corpses Devil's Rejects are like top 10 horror all time for me. Especially Devil's Rejects. That's a movie I've rewatched so many times. I love that
Yeah,
movie. I
yeah,
love the cast. And, Sid Haig and Bill Moseley. Oh, geez, like those two. I wish we got more. I wish that he would have done Three from Hell like a couple years after that instead of waiting for like 13 years. But shit happens.
yeah.
So
Is there any specific, like, obviously you've done like the something like the possession experiment, and it kind of combines found footage with, I guess, the traditional narrative storytelling. But is there any specific horror subgenres or storytelling techniques that you haven't explored yet that you would like to do in the future?
I would love to do like um, kind of like the kind of like a 3D camera, like the 360 cam kind of horror
Mm-hmm.
movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of interesting. Yeah, we were talking about that. We have an alien movie that wrote a script for. It's pretty fun, but it would be like a live stream kind of thing, like kind of like a found footage, but more
Yeah, yeah.
like like that. But which we're in the process of writing. But yeah, I'm always down for something new. Obviously, I love like what James Cameron is always doing. Cameron. Um, I don't have that budget. Not yet. One day.
Yeah,
But
not yet.
that's how we always push it. Not yet. One day. But yeah, he's always pushing the envelope and inspiring me big time. Um, but yeah, I do love found footage though. That's found footage is another genre that was massive 10 years ago, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of like I don't know if we had too many found footage movies or um, just the landscape for found footage horror kind of changed. But that's why we did Possession Experiment the way we did it, because we were like wanted to be cinematic so it could engage you, but still have some mix of found footage. We're trying to play with that 50-50 mix instead of being
Yeah,
all found footage.
yeah.
Uh,
I thought that was a really clever way of kind of putting a spin on that. I'm a huge found footage guy. Blair Witch is like one of my
yeah.
favorite movies. Like, I even have the Black Hills Forest and the Blair
Oh,
Witch
yeah. That's
tattooed
awesome.
on me. I love found footage, and I feel like there was a lot of, you mentioned there was so many movies came out in quick succession, and there was a lot of actually really good ones. I think
Yeah.
lost in that mess.
Lost. Yeah.
Um, do you think that that's something that can come back? It's kind of interesting to hear you mention found footage as something maybe that you would potentially
I
like to.
feel like, yeah, I feel like with COVID hitting, COVID was our Infinity War reset
Yeah,
for that
yeah,
kind of filmmaking. I feel like because people are like, COVID really hurt the film industry vastly. I mean, I've had so many friends like either leave the business or change to something totally different. I remember I didn't do anything for like 7-8 months. Luckily, I had savings, to help get us through. But um, and we had a studio open at the time that we had to shut down because we were just like, oh, what do we do? And I didn't. We literally didn't work for 8 months, and that was kind of strange. It was definitely a weird time. But having that all happen, I'm starting to see. I feel like it was just like a reset. It was our Infinity War reset. I hope, and I hope you see more stuff like that come out because I love found footage. I just
yeah,
it's scary. It feels real. It scares me. I come from that. I was born in the '80s, so coming from that generation where VHS and VCR, it's always fun. It's just so fun. The stories that can be done in that are crazy.
I have a couple of final questions before I let you go.
Yeah.
Is the like, obviously you've kind of, I don't want to say done everything, because I'm sure you have lots more that you want to do, but you've directed, you've produced, you've written, um, basically anything you can probably do in the business at this point, you've probably attempted or been involved in some way. The
Yeah.
process of writing a story for you, like, where does that start? Is it something like, you're sitting in a coffee shop and you're like, see something, you're like, huh, let me just, and it just starts from there? Or is it something that you sit down and consciously say, okay, I want to come up with a story about a vampire, or I want to come up with a story about whatever.
I mean, it's everything. I've gotten ideas in the shower to being on a hike, and yeah, you just got to put it to paper, you got to like flesh out the story. I do it on like a thing called what I call a battle board. I'll get like I have, this is my basement I'm in. So like that way, a pretty big basement. I have like a whole wall where I'll put, hey, this is the actor I'm looking at, or some of the creatures we want to make, and I'll try to start getting ideas together, and then I'll have a concept art person that I work with a lot, and then I draw storyboards, and that's how we're approaching this next movie, which is the sequel to Bad Candy. So Virginia Bitches is like, um, it's about five chicks in a metal band who are vampires, and they break down in a small town full of cannibals, led by a warlock. So it's like as crazy as Bad Candy
So
was. This
wild.
is like Harry Potter on cocaine, like,
That
and it
needs to
takes
be on
place.
when this movie comes out, and it's on Blu-ray, and you've got movie posters and stuff. That needs to be on it. Harry Potter on cocaine.
Yeah, that's a tagline. So it's definitely wild as Bad Candy, but way crazier. And Yeah, it takes place 5 minutes after Bad Candy ends. So
Oh
that's
wow.
fun. It's going to be, you're going to see some characters in Bad Candy. If you've seen Bad Candy, you'll be like, oh wow, I recognize that, or I might see this person. Yeah, that's our next movie we do is Virginia Bitches. And The Forest Hills comes out in November, I believe, and then we have another film called How the Night Receives Them, um, which has an Irish horror author called Keelan Patrick Burke. He's famous. I don't know if he's famous to me, but he's based in Ireland. Keelan Patrick Burke. He had a story we optioned in this movie, but do that after Virginia Bitches, and that's another horror thing with Keith David. Keith David's attached to that. So yeah, we got a couple of movies coming up that they're all in the Bad Candy universe. They all connect to Bad Candy, which is kind of funny. Those two especially. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Keelan's actually he's relatively popular over this side of the world within certain circles because he had won the we have like the Bram Stoker Award for like
yeah,
novels and writing and stuff like that, and
yeah,
that's a pretty big thing. And obviously, if you've got that attached to a piece of work you've done, at least over here, it carries
yeah.
quite a bit of weight.
I'm a
Um,
fan of his, and we just met. Man, we met because it's funny. I met him because of Texas Chainsaw 3D. So that director, John Lessenhop, had another horrific story he optioned from Keelan at the time, but never got made. I forget which story it is, but it was one of his books. But it's sitting there on a shelf, and I feel like that's one of the reasons I did leave Hollywood, because I did sell a script to a big studio, and it just got shelved for like 10 years, and that's why we made Bad Candy, is because we moved to Atlanta, and we just did not want to wait for a studio. We were stoked that somebody bought our script, and we sold it, and we were like, "This is it. We made it." And then nothing happened. And then the emails go by, and you don't hear anything, and then they're responding back, and they're like, "Oh, we'll get back to you." And then it's radio silence, and then 5 years, and you're like, "Wait, we sold this script. Are you guys gonna make it?" And then nothing. And so I think that's why Bad Candy came about, is because we could have the authority and the power to do it ourselves at our studio, build all the sets ourselves, and put it out ourselves. And that was the first test for that, I think.
yeah, I guess that's like the silver lining there. But just to touch on that for a second, why do you think it is that, in your opinion, why studios do that? I hear that a lot of times. And I have a couple of relationships with different people, screenwriters and things like that, or whatever. And you sell a script or something, and it's like this big thing. Oh, it's going to be the next big thing. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then, like you just said, it just becomes like nothing. Is it just do they buy them with the intentions of just having this back catalog that nobody else can touch, and then if they need to pull?
Exactly. That's really it. Honestly, unfortunately, that's they'll go buy a bunch of stuff, try to make it. It's like throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. From a studio perspective, and if it doesn't stick, they can hinder it. The same thing happened to Universal and Marvel when right when Iron Man came out, Universal got shady and they went and bought the rights to Hulk, and the rights just went back to Marvel, but it was kind of like a shady move. And why would they go do that? When they're not going to make any Hulk movies, obviously.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Marvel had to pay for that licensing for using the Hulk in the Avengers movies, which is smart business move, but kind of shitty, and that's why we haven't gotten a Hulk movie until this year, when the rights reverted back. It was a 10-year option, um, or no, it was 15 years actually. Yeah, 2008, 23. So yeah, now we might see a Hulk movie. It's just like a shady studio thing. Why do that? I mean, I guess monetary purposes, but
Mm.
it only hurts fans at the end.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I think there was actually something similar with Universal Studios in Orlando, and I can't remember the specifics of it, but obviously they have that Marvel superhero island.
yeah,
But there was this like whole deal where it wasn't those new like Disney Marvel characters. It was like the old
yeah,
comic book style, so they could like get away with it still kind of and not have to pay any
yeah,
licensing and Disney and this whole big thing.
yeah. Because if you go to Universal now in Orlando, you got what you said. They have all the old
Yeah.
Marvel stuff, way outdated. The old Spider-Man rides, and I think that's what it is. They can't use any of the new stuff, but Disney can, and that's cool that Disney can do it. But it's kind of funny. Universal still has a lot of the rides based off of that old stuff.
Yeah, which is strange because they even updated they ripped down like most of the Hulk roller coaster and like
Yep,
rebuilt it and relaunched it, which seems strange as well. I was like, it's like a weird move.
totally weird.
So going forward then, for you, is there anything in particular goal wise, personally, professionally, that really stick out in your mind as like that's something that I need to check off my list before, I call this thing quits?
Yeah, I mean, I we want to get to be doing a big sci-fi movie. I think that's the goal. Is we have a couple sci-fi scripts that we like, that we can afford to do that are like 10 million plus. So we're trying to get to that. Trying to get to that one day. I think was maybe do a sci-fi movie that would be pretty epic for us. But I mean, besides that, we just want to keep making fun stuff, fun horror movies, fun weird movies that make you think. We're based in Atlanta too, and that's kind of like the mecca of film right now, currently. Um, but yeah, I mean, we kind of created this like bad candy horror universe thing, and we're gonna run with that for the next year or two. And um, we got two scripts for that. But yeah, I mean, that's our plans going forward is just keep making weird movies. Anything weird and fun.
Was there is there any, and I know it's probably you've probably got enough on your plate already, and then I'm mentioning like coffee table books, do this and do that. Has there ever been any thought of a haunted attraction? Like you mentioned a few times, like you're big into your Halloween and all that kind of stuff. You're big into your horror, your sci-fi. Uh, and if not, maybe you guys doing your own attraction, maybe working with an existing one to bring some of your visions to life.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I mean, I actually worked at a haunt for 15 years, uh, from my high school days into college, and um, it was called the Hunt Club in Virginia. It was like a haunted house, and uh, that was actually I always skip over that story. I don't know why, but I should. Anytime my background comes up, like the haunted house attraction is huge with what I am today, and um, I was even tested out the bad candy suit like way back when, like just seeing. I was always big into clowns and stuff, and that's kind of how the bad candy came alive. Is that was the clown, and
Yeah.
But yeah, having some of these movies turned into haunts that'd be huge because I've that's part of my background is I used to be a haunter.
Hmm.
They call it a haunter.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
scare
No, I'm like really familiar. Like when sometimes when I say that over here, people are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like,
It's
"Oh,
like
it's
the
this.
greatest
It's
job.
yeah. It's this whole culture. It's this thing. It's the
It's a culture, totally. And to get paid to scare people is the greatest joy of all time. I can't tell you how many hundreds of times where I was wearing a mask and being paid $7 an hour in high school to scare people during Halloween at a haunted house hunt club, and laughing, crying because I had such a good time, or I'd make somebody run through a wall or trip over their girlfriend, and I'm just like crying inside because it's so fucking funny. But it was such a great time, you know. It's such a. But I would be so honored if I could add something like that. It's been a thought that's crossed my mind for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Going,
I could definitely see that. Um, where is the best place for people listening to support you or maybe follow along with what you're doing or kind of keep an eye and help to push whatever you guys are doing next?
yeah, we post a lot on Instagram and Facebook and anything under Scott Hansen Film or Digital Thunderdome has its own pages on Instagram and Facebook. Also, Bad Candy Film, and then if you want to keep up with the Virginia Bitches, that has its own Instagram now, and we're just making monster suits for that right now, and they're getting close to being done. So, um, but yeah, we should be filming that next month, and if we can't, we're probably just going to go film what we can until the strike is over with. Uh, and kind of like what you were saying, we're just going to go with it.
Yeah,
Just shoot.
yeah, because I kind of like that idea, and you have to respect when I think those are the kind of people I am drawn to more is like you just kind of adapt and you're like doing your own thing. Like I love what you're saying about your wife working on these huge titles that everybody's like, oh my god, it's Thor, or oh my god, it's Iron Man, or whatever. But you're so focused kind of in your own lane of like, this is the vision I have, and this is the thing I want to do, and this is the thing I want to make. Um,
Yep.
and that's why I mentioned Rob Zombie and stuff because I always felt like people give him shit for his Halloween movies. Not a
I
huge
love.
fan. Yeah, not a huge
Yeah.
fan of some of the aspects of number two, but as a whole, I actually like both of those movies. And you got exactly what you were told. It was Rob Zombie's Halloween. It wasn't
Yeah.
John Carpenter's Halloween. It wasn't. It was Rob Zombie's Halloween, and that's exactly. And it just reminds me of like just from hearing you talk over the last hour of like having that vision and not wavering from what you need it to be or what you want it to be.
Because you probably won't get all the names that we want on this next movie, but I'm like, you can still make an amazing movie without a lot of names, So, um, yeah, we're probably just going to go with it. But you just got to keep going, man. You got to keep trucking and putting out your vision and sticking with the plan.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how it has to be done.
For anybody listening or watching this on YouTube or wherever, all the links to Scott's stuff will be in the description on all podcast platforms, on YouTube and everywhere else. Two final things then. A piece of advice that you would give to maybe say someone like myself, like someone who aspires maybe to write a script or finish that book or whatever it might be. Is there a piece of advice that you wish somebody had have given you when you started?
Piece of advice. I'm trying to think. I would say read a lot of scripts. Read a Tarantino script. Read a James Cameron movie script and analyze how they do it. And then watch the movie. Because when you make a movie three times. That's what they say. It's like you write a
Yeah,
movie, you edit it, and then it comes out, and then it's a crazy process. That's why make the analogy of like putting C4 in a birthday cake. That's a movie, and when you put it in the oven, it's going to blow up. And you just hopefully everybody can still consume it, or it's still
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, when you're writing the script, you don't have to be the best writer. I think it's more about your vision and the story structure. On a lot of the movies we do, we film everything that's written, but then we'll have ad libs. Sometimes the the greatest part about making a movie is putting all the sets together and getting the characters there and letting them have fun in that realm. And then a lot of times we've gotten lucky with making gold, just with the setting up and having them react to what's there, you know. But that's probably the best advice I could give. Read some award winning scripts, and anybody can write a script. It's there.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that's been like in the back of my mind, and I've always been like, oh, I can't do it, and I'll put it away for a while. I'm like, it's too hard, it's too difficult, I'm not good enough, or whatever. And it's even if it never becomes anything, I think
Yeah,
it's just like that thing inside where like I feel like I'm like I don't think I can go through my life without at least, even if I can just hold it and look at it and go, I done it.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
Final question then: why horror, and what does it mean to you?
Um, I just love horror. I don't know. I've never. Maybe it's just how I grew up. I find comfort in it,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
love to be scared. If I love to be scared nowadays, it's just a weird feeling. It it's the only genre, like you're saying before. Like the fans are very loyal. Like there's a massive following for any horror movie, and just seeing the following is amazing. And getting support and getting random messages about movies we've done uh, keeps us going forward. And that's all you can do. But I just the horror genre is just massive, influential, and they always kind of got your back. And uh, I think that's why we have a lot of fun in the horror genre.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's probably sometimes it's really hard to put like a an exact reason as to why. I don't know. Like I always like people ask me, and I'm like, I don't know. There's like a feeling of nostalgia, comfort. I don't know. There's so many different things I think encapsulated in it. And I say nostalgia, but like I watch something like Bad Candy, and I get nostalgic even though it's a new movie.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
like, how can I be nostalgic about something I've literally just seen for the first time? But then I'm
Ah,
like,
that's
but it gives me that feeling.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
This has been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time. I hope we can. Maybe I'll see you in Ireland when you're here. If I
Yeah,
make it here,
totally. I'll let you know where we're landing
and
when we get it all figured out.
I would love to chat again. Maybe towards the tail end of the year. Maybe when there's some more stuff we could talk about and whatever. I'm sure that everybody listening will probably be eager to find out some more news.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time, man. It's been great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hell yeah.
Thanks, man.